There is a place in a world where transportation is not just one system. It is an act of survival in the society, and that place is not in the major urban centers of the one you see in the headlines. It is hidden away in the mountains and in the valleys and the communities in the quiet of the interior of Japan. Today, I am going to show you something that only a few people around the world to know: all systems invisible hold an entire nation on the move, even when no one is looking. Before I continue, I need to ask you a question. Have you ever stopped to think about what it holds in a company? When she gets older, when the city lost population, and when young migrate to the urban centers, and when the towns are all just old, what happens in the mobile? What happens to the human connection? Japan is already living in the future, and the answer they find will surprise you. Let's start at the beginning, the interior of the Japanese, facing the reality that the majority of countries have not even begun to imagine it. In the case of municipalities, with fewer than 5 million inhabitants, with an average age over 60 years of age, in some of the villages, in most isolated on this medium, comes close to that of the 70s. And when you have a population, thus the traditional concept of the carriage where the person will move up to the service, it simply no longer works. Think of me as a senior citizen at 75 years old and living in 12 kilometers from the center of the city, and a driver's license and no family close by are able to gain access to a pharmacy as he gets medical care, as he buys the food fresh. The response by the Japanese for this challenge, it is so stylish and discreet, and it is precisely this level of discretion that fascinates me and that it causes the whole world to ignore it. The first I want to introduce you to is what the Japanese call supermarket traveling. But be warned, I'm not talking about a single truck of the show. I'm talking about a network of sophisticated logistics which is based on the demographic data, which shall decide where, when, and who to deliver it to you, with a precision that would cause you shame. Many of the systems, technology, and modern life in these vehicles. The following routes are defined not by geographical convenience, but the average age of the residents of the particular community. If a village has a high concentration of older people, he will be able to receive visits more frequent if the data indicates that a particular region is at risk of isolation, because the population is decreasing and the services are disappearing from the system, focuses on this area automatically. It is not just a trade. It is one of the instruments of the social movement, and most impressive of all this is a model that didn't come out of a startup to billion-dollar or a government program grandiose. It was born out of a need in the community. It has been adapted for the small business and regional, and eventually being incorporated into public policies at local level. It is the innovation from the bottom up, from the smallest to the biggest. Just the best solutions often come up, but the transportation of the goods is only one layer of the system. Is there something more sophisticated going on? Behind the scenes in Japan, a number of municipalities have developed the scholars of urban planning call for mobility program. And I know that term. It sounds technical, so let me explain in a more simple way. Imagine that you are a city manager, and she realizes that its residents, older people, are going out less and less your home, not because she doesn't want to, but because we do not have a valid reason. You do not have transportation available from, and don't have the energy to face the challenges. What do you do? The solution to the Japanese was ingenious: create a calendar in community of sync visits to the doctor, activities, and the cultural, social, and public services, which are distributed throughout the week at times that are of strategic importance, and ensuring that people get out of the house on a regular basis. The shipping is set up to meet exactly at those times. It looks simple to do, but think about what that means. It's not just the logistics, this is the active prevention of social isolation. It's a system that's designed to hold the movement of the human alive, even if the traditional infrastructure is not able to handle it. And here's the one detail that impresses me most about this model: reducing the cost of healthcare for the public. The elderly people who remain socially active demand fewer hospital admissions, fewer medication in an emergency, the less a crisis of mental health. The transportation is no longer an expense, and it becomes an investment in preventive actions. If you're watching here and found all of it fascinating, and sure it is, then you will need to do one thing right now if you sign up for the channel in the visible Indivar. And please share this video with anyone you know. Do you know why? Because of this kind of content, it rarely comes up. He is buried in the technical report are available on the university, in the conversation between the experts. But it deserves to be seen. and you can help make it happen with just one click by continuing. There is also a third layer of this system, is that it is perhaps one of the most amazing in all of them. It is a network that works without an official name, with no budget of its own, and without the bureaucratic structure. I refer to the distributed network of mobility in the community. It works like this. A delivery truck that ever passes by a particular route can also transport the drugs to residents who are unable to make the journey. A minibus to school out of school turns to the transport for the elderly who need to go to a doctor, as a vehicle for the collection of waste, and includes stops at the points where the local residents need some kind of assistance. The shuttle ceases to be a standalone system. It is a function which is distributed throughout the community in which each vehicle is in motion. It is also a source of social connection. This is not a cuff, it is the planning system of a high order and the same resource serving multiple purposes. And at the same time, it's the kind of efficiency that the developed countries are looking around for decades. Generally trying to solve with technology is complex and expensive. Japan was the coordination of the human and the intelligence organization. Now I would like to invite you to reflect on something deeper than that. Why is it invisible to the world around you? Why is it that a system is only as effective as the humans and as friends had not seen the news? Why isn't there a global movement in order to adapt this model for other countries facing the same challenges? The answer, in my view, it's simple and a little out of place. Why don't you have a glamour? Don't have artificial intelligence about the size of a building. Don't have the drone is a standalone. Don't have the futuristic interface, which appears as well in the video truck in the grocery store, walking on a rural road in the mountains. Don't seem to innovation. But it is one of the most advanced forms of social engineering that exists, in which the system adapts itself to the people, not the other way around. And this is exactly the reverse of the logic of what makes the Japanese such a powerful thing. Instead of forcing people to adapt to the infrastructure is fixed. The infrastructure has been redesigned to keep up with the demographic reality of human community. I would like to take this moment to ask you a direct question. Do you think the country would be able to learn something from that model? Write in the comments. What do you think would be the greatest obstacle to implementing something like that? Where do you live? I have read all of your comments, and I really want to know your view on this. We now turn to a dimension that is also the least well-known of the operating system there inside the Japanese phenomenon that researchers call it the collapse of the villages in the supply chain. When a town lost population at a certain speed, it begins to lose the services. First go to the pharmacy, after the clinic, after in the market, and when they disappear and the people did not have all the more reason to stay with us, then they will also be gone to the next town. On the way you start to feel the same effect. It's a cycle and it's heartbreaking. The mobility system which I have described here are not the only solutions. They are the mechanisms to stop that cycle when a service goes down to the person rather than requiring the person to go to the service. The system breaks down the logic of leaving. The pharmacy will not have to close because there is still demand. It is only changed in form. On the market do not need to shut down the activities of your products. Come, in another way, the community does not need to be dissolved because of its Budal connection has been maintained by a network of discrete transport. This is a long-term plan. This is the thought in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and well into the future, and that is something that very few companies in the world and have the courage or the patience to do so. If you made it this far in this video, part of a very select group of people, most give up before you, but you did because you realized that what seems simple on the surface, you can hide and engineer deep down. For this reason, it is the perfect time for you to subscribe to the channel in the visible in viewer. It's here that I call exactly this kind of content systems that underpin the modern world, the silent technology discrete. That is, rich countries use it to solve complex problems, and the stories of the communities that you want find anywhere else. Click on the subscribe button. Now, do not leave it for later. Going back to Japan. There is one aspect of this model is that I have not yet mentioned, and that it may be more important to the future of our planet. Japan is not only solving the problem internally, he is unwittingly making a living laboratory for the global aging. Because of that, Japan is facing today the elderly, the villages emptying services on the brink of collapse. This is the one that's in Europe, South Korea, China, and dozens of other countries around the world will face in the decades to come. The Japanese model of a mobility adaptive can be the answer to that is cheaper, more humane, and a more scalable in that it exists in order to address this challenge. No need to move, no need of a supercomputer, have the demographics of the local coordination between the different sectors of society, public, private, and voluntary sectors, and the policy decision to prioritize the lives of the people, of the efficiency of the system, must, above all, a change of mindset. Seeing the carriage is not as a commodity, but rather as a social right is fundamental. Think about it for a moment. Many towns around the world that are now in the process of disappearance and silence, not because the people want it to go away, but it's because of the infrastructure surrounding them, it was abandoned. In the first place, many communities are losing their cohesion, not because of lack of desire, but because of lack of mobility. The carriage moves to the people, but more than that, he moves on new communities. He moves on identity. He moves to the stories, but for it to disappear, Japan got it before anyone else, and you're solving with solutions that the world needs to know. Before I close, I want to do this for an invitation to the end, and this is an invitation. It's important to you. Write in the comments, what is the system of transportation or infrastructure of your country? Do you think the world should know, but you don't know? It may be a small place, a little known. It can be a creative in your city. You have found a problem in a particular way. Tell me why this channel exists to do just that, to call attention to that which is unseen. And if this video made you think about it, if it brought you something, if he moved even a little the way you see the world around you, and then do the following: leave a like here if it falls within the visible NDR, and if you haven't already, and share this video with anyone that you know that you're going to love this. It may be a friend, a curious, a coworker, a family member who loves engineering or urban planning because of the knowledge that is stored. Change anything, but with the knowledge that flows. That is, it has the power to change perspectives, to inspire, and maybe even influence the decisions that affect the entire community. Thank you for staying until the very end. I'll see you in the next video where a system of invisible will be revealed.